who is Kirillov, you might ask? Well, he was the guy, sort of way back, I think this may be a couple of years ago, who basically came out and said like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of biolabs in Ukraine, and they're all like linked to the Biden family through Metabiota and Rosemont Seneca, and the US has been conducting all this biowarfare research in Ukraine and Georgia, and of course the West was like, what conspiracy theories? I mean, we do have, biological research facilities in Ukraine and in Georgia, but they're the nice kind of biological research facilities, right? We're researching how to make better kinds of ice cream for the children, right? This idea, right, that, we put all these labs right on Russia's borders for any kind of nefarious purpose is completely schizo. Ukraine assassinated the chief of Russian chemical weapons. I think he's technically the head of chemical and biological research, weapons research in Russia. Moscow, December 17th, a top Russian general accused by Ukraine of being responsible for the use of chemical weapons against Ukrainian troops. I haven't heard of any of this, right? I follow the Ukraine war relatively closely, and I haven't heard of chemical weapons being used in Ukraine. Maybe they're just expanding the definition. Maybe they're like, they use tear gas, and because they use tear gas, and tear gas is technically a chemical weapon. Of course, when most people say chemical weapons, they think, sarin or, some kind like nerve gas or something like that. Yes, so Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, who was the chief of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical protection troops, was killed outside an apartment building along with his assistant when a bomb hidden in an electric scooter went off. Says the Russia's investigative committee. An SBU source, SBU is the Ukrainian intelligence, confirmed to Reuters that Ukrainian intelligence had been behind the hit. The liquidation of the chief of the radiation and chemical protection troops of the Russian Federation is the work of the SBU. Let's see. The Russians are going to be pissed about this. The Russians are very, very pissed off. Ukraine has been doing like a lot of assassinating, basically. So people are saying, is this connected? This is the aftermath of the assassination. And I got some footage. Don't worry, it's not gory. It's just it's just taken from a static camera far away. There's no sound though. You can see the apartment block. There's the scooter outside. And bada boom. The moral of this story is be suspicious of electric scooters, bro. There might be Ukrainian explosives inside them. In the heart of Moscow, this was. Right? And so Russia have detained the suspected assassin responsible for this. Allegedly, he is an Uzbek national who claims he was offered money by the SBU to carry out the attack. Russia plans to bring this to the UN. It's not going to do anything. This is consistent with the Crocus City Hall massacre, if you remember that. That was a big terrorist attack that took place I'm pretty sure it was in Moscow, in like a big arena. And other recent terrorist attacks in Russia. Foreign nationals are recruited online and offered money to commit acts of terror by Ukraine, which is a proxy of the US. This is a fairly significant escalation, and Putin will have a response. Although, what that response is, nobody knows, right? Medvedev is pissed off. Now, this is very, very interesting. Only reason why the West know who Kirillov is because of his role as a propagandist, bro, right? He was a propagandist. He was a spreader of misinformation. What was that misinformation? Well, judge for yourself, bros.
Note, the U.S. Senate's request to the Department of Health regarding Pfizer Corporation's directed evolution research. The request seeks to assess the credibility of information obtained by the U.S. non-for-profit organization Project Veritas from Pfizer's Director of Research and Development, Jordan Walker. He stated that the company was using the opportunity of directed evolution research to improve the effectiveness of its vaccines. Commenting on approaches to creating new vaccine drugs, Walker said, quote, "We don't mutate it ourselves, we focus on creating, proactively developing new vaccines." Thus, the Pfizer employee admits to conducting directed evolution research aimed at gaining competitive advantage and increasing profits. Walker's statements are backed up by those of former Pfizer employee Karen Kingston. She explicitly stated that the US pharmaceutical company's products, quote, "are by definition biological weapons." In doing so, she refers to the US law, which defines a biological weapon as any biological agent, toxin, or delivery device, the definition of which includes vaccines with mRNA technology. This type of vaccine has reportedly been developed with US government funding since 2017, and by the time it became commercially available, it was understood that it could cause comorbidities and serious complications such as meningitis, anaphylactic shock, acute myocardial infarction, and stroke. Drugs from Pfizer and Moderna, which have previously been awarded multi-billion-dollar government contracts, have also been suggested as a treatment for the adverse effects of vaccination. Such a strategy enables American pharmaceutical companies to profit from the appearance of novel infections to the fullest extent possible. The establishment of global biological control is the primary goal of US bioprograms. As we have frequently brought to your attention, a move to US standards for the transmission and collection of biological information, the deterioration of national health systems, and the imposition of medical equipment and medicine supplies are frequently the outcomes of selective assistance to participating government. Note that
Oh, those crazy Russians. Look at this guy spewing conspiracy theories and misinformation. Sure does have a lot of information behind his misinformation, but that's what the Russians are like, bros, right? Like, you know, when they try and make some propaganda, right? They try and just bombard you with information. Of course, you know, because the guy saying it is a Russian, none of this can be true, bros, right? I completely disavow that any of this is true. Here's another clip from Kirillov.
Рост заболеваемости нехарактерными инфекциями отмечен в данный момент в ряде стран. И то есть тоже мы можем говорить о том, что это не без помощи американских биологов.
Я думаю, что вот так огульно заявлять, мы же все-таки должностные лица. Ведь биологическое оружие, если посчитать, какой ущерб нанес ковид, то, наверное, будем говорить, там, за 2 года, да?
Ну, основная такая
пандемия,
да. 2 года шла.
То даже ее нельзя сравнить с ущербом, который был во Вторую мировую войну. Это в десятки раз больше. Зато выгодоприобретатели той же Big Pharma.
Вы имеете в виду фармацевтические все компании?
Компании, которые в основном находятся у нас там в Соединенных Штатах, это там колоссальные. Как-то вот так.
То есть вопрос...
Вопрос стоит,
да.
Вопросы
Ответ
мы задаем,
понять.
мы же передаем документы. Вот характерна реакция Соединенных Штатов Америки, про которую мы говорим. Ни одного опровержения тем документам, которые мы предъявили, не было. Мы передали документы, это более, наверное, 2000 листов, в Организацию Объединенных Наций.
Какой ответ пришел?
У нас, как правило, 2 ответа. Один ответ происходит в Соединенных Штатах Америки. У них же он стандартный. Все, что не делается, все делается в интересах национальной безопасности Соединенных Штатов. И нам надо доверять.
Слепо доверять.
Да, слепо доверять. Там политика глобального биологического контроля. Они поняли, что это работает. Что посредством искусственно создаваемых таких кризисных ситуаций биологического характера можно управлять миром. Ведь ничего бесплатно они не делают. И даже поставляя каким-то государствам на безвозмездной основе, она не такая безвозмездная, как они об этом говорят.
Oh, those crazy Russians daring to say that the US is, pursuing these policies to get something. Everybody knows, right? The WHO and the US, they just do stuff out of the goodness of their hearts, Bro, I can't believe... See, this is the kind of suspicious misinformation that the Russians are well known for, bros, right? Oh my God, I can't believe this guy was even allowed to speak. These are the slides, by the way, that he was talking about in his sort of presentation back in March in 2023. These are from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You can still find them on the Telegram channel. To summarize, essentially, he was basically saying that the US had a number of biological weapons research labs in Ukraine and Georgia, and that they were studying things like how to give diseases to migratory birds in order to spread diseases, that they were working with things like flu, Crimean Congo, hemorrhagic fever, all kinds of really, really, really bad stuff. There are also biolabs in Georgia, that they were working on highly pathogenic avian influenza, H5N8, and that a lot of this was being funded through a US company called Metabiota and through a company that was owned by Hunter Biden called Rosemont Seneca. Now, of course, it's the Russians, man. You can't believe a word the Russians say, bro. They'll say anything, right? Like, you know, wait a second. Okay, so this reminds me of something that I really should like just find and play for you if I can like dig it up on Twitter really, really quickly. So Victoria Nuland was asked about this, right? Oh yeah, this is fucking great. So when this happened, right, everyone's like, "Oh, this is totally untrue," right? The idea that the US would have, you know, biological research, sort of like things in Ukraine and Georgia, like close to Russia, that's absolutely untrue, bros. And then Victoria Nuland was in front of Congress. This was when she was a US Undersecretary of State before she was fired and went on to lead the National Endowment for Democracy. She's over in Georgia at the moment, helping them with their democracy, bros, right? Like, just a bit of democracy here, a bit of democracy there, right? Like, check this shit out.
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach. Right?
So, I mean, we do have biolabs in Ukraine. It's very, very important that we evacuate all the stuff, make sure that the Russians don't get any of their hands on it, because it's, it's being done for, like, medical research or something? How fucking stupid do you think we are, bro? Well, very stupid, obviously, is the answer to that. The Russians have come out since, I don't have a clip here, but basically they were saying that all of this research has been moved out of Ukraine and now being distributed across Africa to countries like Cameroon and South Africa and Nigeria and stuff like that. Awesome. So the next plague this time presumably will come from Africa. Don't worry, bros. I'm absolutely sure that none of the stuff that they're doing is in any way sinister. These are allegedly all of the US biolabs. This is from, when is this? 2022. So this is ancient history, bros, right? This is one of the first threads on this. War Clandestine. Give him a follow. Good research guy. Now, the summary of this thread basically was that when the invasion started, the Russians were specifically hitting these labs. And that this was one of the first things, in fact, that the Russians took out when they attacked Ukraine, right? Just when this whole thing kicked off. And from the Russians' point of view, this is one of the reasons why they did the invasion. I think this is a longer version of the Victoria Nuland thing. Check this out.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
So there you go, bros. Victoria Nuland has said it, and you can take that to the bank. It's not like someone like her would ever lie about something, bros, right? I mean, you know, she used to be the US Undersecretary of State. She was the one very, very famously that after the coup in Ukraine had that phone call of hers leaked where she was basically talking about how they were going to pick the next president. She wouldn't just lie. I can't believe that anyone in chat would think that. Now, of course, thank God we have Newsweek providing a fact check for you bros, right? Now that we've dispensed with all the conspiracies, we've seen what the dastardly Russians are saying. Thank God we've got the voice of sanity. Newsweek is in here to give us the straight dope, bros, to fact check the shit out of that. The death of Russian Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, the head of the country's nuclear and chemical defense forces, has led to retellings of anti-Ukrainian and anti-United States falsehoods that he helped spread from his seat of power. He's dead now. The SBU did it over the past 6 years. Kirillov has helped to spread baseless conspiracies, bro. They're baseless. They're so baseless we don't even have to deal with them, right? We're not even going to tell you what the conspiracies are. Including that the US developed COVID-19, that Ukraine and the US were developing bioweapons facilities in Ukraine, and that President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was linked to bioweapons development through Rosemont Seneca. These have been debunked. Well, there you go. They've been debunked, bros, right? They've been debunked. Are they going to link any of the debunkings? Nah, look, it's been debunked, okay, right? I don't want to hear any of this, has it been debunked? It's been debunked. Shut the fuck up. But his death has sparked the re-emergence of the same unsubstantiated talking points, bro. Posts on Ezra, on Twitter by Shadow of Ezra, said, well, they're basically repeating what I just said, that they might spark a pandemic. The claims in the post are false, bros. There you go. They're false. Newsweek says it's false. As Newsweek previously reported, the Russian Defense Ministry said it had obtained evidence that Ukraine and the US had collaborated to develop biological weapons. Kirillov delivered official briefings that shared this falsehood. While the US and Ukraine have had a partnership since 2005 to prevent the threat of outbreaks of infectious diseases, there's no evidence that this was part of any plan to develop biological weapons or create a disease outbreak. There's no evidence, bros, right? A statement released by the US Embassy in Ukraine in April 2020 said, quote, "The US Embassy would like to set the record straight regarding disinformation spreading in some circles in Ukraine that mirrors Russian disinformation regarding the strong US-Ukrainian partnership to reduce biological threats," which is why we need all of these biolabs, obviously. Here in Ukraine, the US Department of Defense's Biological Threat Reduction Program works with the Ukrainian government to consolidate and secure pathogens and toxins of security concern in Ukrainian government facilities while allowing for peaceful research and vaccine development. Now, to be fair, in the USSR, there was a lot of biological weapons research. There was a program called Biodefence, where they were basically developing all this kind of stuff. And after Ukraine left the Soviet orbit, there was some concern about tracking down and securing any of these materials. I don't know why after they secured these materials, they had to hang around for another 15 years. Some people have suggested that one of the things about these bioweapon scientists is you've got to basically keep them employed because the knowledge kicking around in their head is too valuable. You can't risk them going to work for Iran or something like that. So they employ them at labs inside Ukraine to work on stuff. But of course, this is all very dual-use technology, right? If they can work on curing a disease, they can work on, messing with it. No. I'm sure they've never done anything wrong, bro. As we work with our Ukrainian partners to ensure Ukraine can detect and report outbreaks caused by dangerous pathogens before they pose security or stability threats, our joint efforts help to ensure that dangerous pathogens do not fall into the wrong hands. So yeah, right. There are labs, 46 of them actually. But it's fine. They were working on COVID-19 outbreak, but there's no evidence of US-funded labs in Ukraine developing germ warfare capabilities. Similar conspiracy theories have been pushed by Russia for decades, including claims that AIDS was created in a US military lab. So there you go, bros. It's all bullshit. Including saying that it has anything to do with Predict and Metabiota, making baseless claims to tie Predict research on preventing pandemics through COVID-19. It's kind of funny, right? When I met Dr. Robert Malone back in 2021, he was extremely concerned about what was going on with Ditra and Predict. But I mean, why should I listen to him? He only worked for them, right? What would he know, right? Much better that you trust Newsweek, bros, right? Much better that you trust Newsweek.